Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Hello, my name is Michael. I'm so glad you can all join us tonight. It's 7 p.m. where I am in a semi-sunny, semi-cloudy day in Sydney. We're just really glad to have all of you join us tonight for a webinar about a very exciting topic that is close to my heart. My name is Michael. Michael Liu. I'm in charge of future students in marketing here at Alphacrucis College. And Alphacrucis College is all about equipping Christian leaders to change the world. And that's no matter what your vocation or calling is. We started about 75 years ago, training people for full-time ministry. But in the last 15 years or so, we've been equipping and training people in the world to become chaplains, counselors, teachers, musicians, and also people that want to go into business and to start businesses. I normally work in my role behind the scenes at AC, but having been working in the commercial world for a number of years now, and also having a little bit of startup experience, I raised my hand to get involved in speaking to our guest tonight. And let me introduce him right now. So our guest is Alex Carpenter, who is the Head of Entrepreneurship programs at Alphacrucis College. And I'm very excited to welcome Alex to have a chat with me tonight and answer some of your questions. Alex, if you can unmute, maybe would like to introduce yourself to the people on the webinar.
For sure. Thanks so much, Michael. I'm thrilled to be here. So my background is I've been in entrepreneurship, doing entrepreneurship for pretty much my entire working career. So in that time, I've started 9 different businesses, and some of them have gone well, and some of them are still going, and some of them have failed. And I've spent the last 6 years at the University of Sydney helping them write curriculum, teach entrepreneurship, coach their alumni in all things entrepreneurship, including fundraising and coming up with new ideas. So this is my bread and butter. This is what I do all day, every day, and have done for quite a long time. So I'm thrilled to talk to you about it tonight.
Yeah, cool, Alex. Maybe I'll start with just a couple more questions about you and get to know you a bit better. Did you start off as an entrepreneur, or did you get a normal job like most people?
I've been an entrepreneur. Like my earliest dancing with entrepreneurship was when someone taught me how to sew in home economics back in high school. I was like, wow, sewing's quite cool. I could build things, I could make things and sell them. And so I started a pencil case business, which I don't count as one of my businesses, because if I counted all of those kinds of side projects, the number would be too high. It would be ridiculous. But I actually started back then very early on in high school. And then I thought I wanted to do big business kind of stuff. And so I thought, what's the easiest way to become a CEO of an ASX 100 company? Accounting. Let's do accounting. I hated accounting, couldn't stand it. But then I ended up with an accounting degree and couldn't possibly become an accountant. And so I thought, what could I possibly do with the skills that I've got? Well, it's kind of related to business, so I'll just start some businesses. And so I started businesses in my final year of university, and then have never looked back. I absolutely love it, and I want to keep doing it forever. Yeah,
cool. What are of all the 9 businesses you said you got involved with, what are the 1 or 2 more successful ones that maybe you would like to share with everyone?
Sure. I mean, there's all sorts of, it depends on how you define success. We might get into that later, but I mean, in terms of monetarily successful businesses, I think the first couple that I started were quite well. So one of them was around fruit and veg wholesaling, which is not sexy. And the other one was around hospitality supplies. So that was selling everything from cups and crockery and cocktail equipment and all sorts of stuff. So eventually it grew, and we had warehouses, and it was a massive logistics thing. We had trucks going everywhere and all sorts of, and then that became a very typical business. And then that became very boring for me. And so I sold those and started a whole bunch of other wild ideas, and have kept going.
Wow, cool. those are two big sectors in Australia, and they've been impacted hugely by the last 2 years, right? And also going through a lot of transformation. So maybe we can chat about those a bit later. All right, well, let's kick it off tonight. Let's get into the Q&A. I just wanted to say hi to everyone that's joined us and is still joining us. There might be a few people just joining us now late. We've really got a good mix of people that have signed up for the bootcamp, over 100 people so far. So we're really excited. I think tonight we have a good mix of 3 different groups with people who are still in high school, either in year 11 or starting year 12. And we also have people who already own their own business. They're already successful in some way with generating revenue and employing people and maybe hopefully making profits. And then we have people at all the various stages in between. So, from I've got an idea, I'm trying to figure out how to get it off the ground, to I've got an idea, but I'm facing some challenges, and all kinds of aspiring entrepreneurs. So thank you all for your interest in entrepreneurship and startups. Let's get started. So Alex, let me start with a broad question. The world is changing so fast nowadays, and we hear buzzwords like artificial intelligence, digital transformation, Web 3.0, the metaverse. How do we keep up? I mean, there's so much going on. Even for someone who's got many years of experience like myself, still keeping up, I find to be a challenge. I'm listening to half a dozen podcasts every day and trying to, well, not every day, but every week, and just trying to keep up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much information around as well. And Google has just given us so much information that we can just about learn anything if we put our minds to it. And we could, self-teach, and YouTube's been amazing. And there's so much potential and opportunity. And yet we actually find that people are struggling because there's so much information, there's so much content. And so they're struggling to figure out what is right and what is wrong, and where is truth, and what even is truth anymore. And all of these questions are dwelling on everyone and really holding people back. And really, that is the core skill of entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs by definition are moving into the unknown. So they don't know lots of things, but they don't let their lack of knowledge stop them from moving. They still start walking in a direction, even though they don't know, necessarily what's at the end of that road. Entrepreneurship is walking through a fog. And so you can only ever really see this far out ahead. And so you just kind of keep doing this, and hopefully you don't trip over anything, but we always do. That's also a part of entrepreneurship. So having this ability to actually validate things, to figure out, is this true? Can I actually rely on this? Is this a fact, or is this just a whole bunch of people's opinions? And how do I build a business in this environment when everything is changing all the time? They're the core skills that you really need, and having those mindsets so that you can grow in those situations and actually flourish in the unknown, which, we're all living in that world now. Now everybody needs to become an entrepreneur, whether they like it or not, because there's so much unknown. It's paralyzing. So I'm really passionate about helping people figure those things out. I'm very passionate about truth and how you can determine whether or not something is true. And I think really the best businesses are going to be led by people who understand how to do that. And so I'm really keen to work with anyone who really wants to do that.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to summarize what you just said. To be an entrepreneur, comfort with ambiguity, right? That's also one of the 21st century skills that everyone talks about, and being able to make decisions with incomplete data, right? Guts sounds like, you need to have a bit of guts to walk out into the fog. And then the ability, like you said, to sense things and adjust and sort of pivot, those sound like three things or mindsets that people need. How do we, I want to go a bit deeper into like starting a business. A lot of people start businesses. Starting a business is not easy. I've worked on 2 startups myself. None of them have turned into successful, massive IPOs, for example, or huge exits. but they were really fun when I was working on them. I think stats say that less than half of new businesses survive within 2 or 3 years. How do we ensure? What do we do to ensure sort of startups have staying power? Like besides those things that we just discussed.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge for every business, but really most business failure happens because there was no market need. So people come up with a really great idea, they get very excited and exuberant, and then they launch something thinking, oh, if I build this, people are just going to knock on my door and they're just going to buy it and it's going to take off. It's going to absolutely take off. And time again, that's proven wrong. The reason why that we're always falling into the same trap is because it's so alluring. We think it's great. Like this thing is so exciting and people don't get it, but they will get it. Once I built it, they'll get it. But really the process of entrepreneurship, the rigor behind it is all about this validation piece, about saying, well, how do you know that? Like, what are you basing? Why would you start a cafe? What evidence have you got to show me that that is a good idea beyond you think it's a good idea? What tangible evidence have you got that launching a cafe in this area, on that street, in this day and age, why was that a good idea? And how do you gather the evidence? How do you prove that out? And so it's not so much about tearing down all these opportunities. It's also about de-risking it and increasing your understanding of the potential of the opportunity, because so often people don't start business ideas because they don't see the full potential. If you see the full potential, that'll drive you forward, that'll motivate you, because it gets very exciting because you're like, wow, this really is a real thing. This is truth. This will work. I know it will work. I've done all this work. I know it'll happen. This is true. I should do this. And that excitement drives good entrepreneurship. If you don't have that confidence, then you haven't done that pre-work, then you're shooting in the dark. And that's very dangerous. But you learn a lot from that. Those battle scars make you a better entrepreneur as you go. So, I mean, I've failed many times over, and I've not followed this advice. Like, I've learned this the hard way, and I've learned the theory. Like, this is me talking from painful experience of investing lots of time and money and relationships into something that just didn't go anywhere. And you've got to really be okay with that and understand that as a risk, but not be put off by it, because you'll learn. I survived, you'll survive too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Being able to put up with some pain, because pain is failure is part of success, and pain is part of growing. When you mentioned the cafe, it just reminded me of when I was having coffee with one of my colleagues last week, and we were in a new cafe, that sprung, was a local neighborhood, but they, to your point of doing research, they had challenges during COVID, and they also spend a lot of time testing their market. So, surveying every resident and business around the area to ask them what should be on their menu, and then, sort of understanding price points, and obviously understanding demand and traffic and competition, all the basics that you would do if you were in business, right? So that's a bit of common sense. Before I go on, I've got a couple of questions for Alex, but feel free for anyone on the webinar, please feel free to just submit your questions in the Q&A, because I'll be chatting to Alex with some questions that I have for the next sort of 10-20 minutes. We'll have a student on to have a chat as well. And then towards the end, we'll open it up and actually have questions that you guys have submitted. So please go ahead and send it through in the Q&A. All right, let's move on to successful, famous entrepreneurs, Alex. We've all heard about the famous people that started the biggest and the most successful businesses. Usually nowadays, they're tech businesses. So names like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. All of these guys, they had big dreams, right? And actually, I think a few of them actually didn't finish university, but they also seem to have sort of matching, a relentless laser focus. Sometimes you would even say it's in some sense they might have been putting their metrics or profits before people, and they might have matching egos. So I guess one question that I have is, does someone need to be a megalomaniac and a workaholic to be successful? Because we hear that from entrepreneurs all the time, work 60 hours, think about work all the time.
Yeah, and I've certainly worked those hours before, and I've fallen into that trap. So I can tell you that's not how God works, and that's not how God made us to work. So really, if you work those times, you're playing a short-term game. You're trying to push something up in a very short period of time, and really, if you don't. If you do that, you're risking that actually it'll fall apart just as fast. So we've seen this in so many businesses throughout time, but the faster they grow, the faster they fall is actually quite accurate in the startup space. And we see this in all sorts of different startups, even in Australia. The ones that are investing in their people, they can attract more talent. If they attract more talent, then they can grow more. And if that becomes a virtuous cycle, and how do you make sure that your staff are happy and doing good work, and therefore they want their friends to work there too, the word of mouth, that is actually the most long-term way to grow any business. So, we've got classic examples of, who wants to work at Facebook these days? I mean, Meta, like nobody would work there. There's people leaving those jobs, and they're extremely good paying jobs, and they don't want to work there anymore. And the same issues with Elon Musk. Like he is like a megalomaniac by all accounts. Like he's got terrible human resource management skills, and he's very good at one thing, but he's doing all these other things that are bad. And so really, in the long term, you see how these will play out, and you've seen it already in so many companies in history. And so I'm convinced that all of these people, all of these most financially successful people would actually be more successful in the long term if they were Christian, if they were actually understanding how the world works, who built it, how it works, and why it works that way. And if you're in line with God's will, then you will do better off than if you're not. And so I think there's a lot to be said in that, and a lot for people to understand and put into practice and test it out. See if this is true. See how you do feel after 80 hours of work versus, having a day totally off, a day when you don't think about work at all and you actually take the Sabbath seriously. See how productive you are in the other 6 days. I've done this experiment. I invite everyone to do this experiment. It's amazing. You're so much better off working 6 days and having one day completely off as rest, just like we're meant to. That has much better outcomes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, if you're really invested in an idea and believe in that idea and know it's making a positive impact, I mean, you can not be working, but your subconscious mind is still, probably marinating and coming with the ideas, right? Sometimes I have my best ideas outside of work hours. And that's a good point about Christian entrepreneurs. I guess Jeff Bezos is famous now for 20 years, but what will he be remembered for 2,000 years from now? Yeah. All right, let's talk about Christian businesses, because talked about that it might be that these guys would have a bigger impact if they were Christians. Are there any sort of successful Christian businesses today that you can think of, and sort of what does a successful Christian business even look like? Because I've had this discussion with some people, and is the main objective of the business, a Christian business, just to fund a ministry? Is it just a means to an end? What is it? What should it look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and not one that's easily answered, because it really does depend on the individual person and what they're actually called to do. But fundamentally, we're all made to love our neighbor. And so if the business is just to raise money and then to fund something else, running a immoral business in order to fund something that's doing some social good, that doesn't sound at all Christian. That doesn't sound aligned with the gospel in the slightest. Whereas building a business that is the best business you possibly can build, and you're working diligently at everything that you do for the glory of the Father, then you can't just do a business on the side. You can't think of like, oh, well, this is not that important. Why are you doing it if it's not that important? Is your motivation to get money, or is your motivation to worship God? And your motivation should always be as an outpouring of love. Why do you need money? He's already got all the money in the world. Like that might come with it, but that should never be your motivation. Because it just corrupts everything. Everything that you touch is then corrupted by it. So I think really what a Christian business looks like, and there's some great examples in Australia that you've got Husky Cups, which Adrian Chen is the founder of that, and an AC alumni, and that business is amazing. Why? Because they take a waste product, coffee waste, and they turn it into coffee cups. And so you're actually creating this circular economy that has such better impact on everything it touches. So it's actually blessing every customer, every business, and every coffee that it interacts with. That's fantastic. That sounds like a Christian business. Well, what about there's another one, Outback Denim, which is another fantastic business, which is all about how do we make denim in an environmentally responsible way and pay for the staff who are making this denim a living wage in a country that doesn't have a living wage. This is, again, it's every interaction is a blessing. So you're blessing your customers, you're blessing your supply chain, you're blessing your manufacturers and your primary producers. Every single component of that business is a blessing to everyone that it touches. It's a blessing to its staff. That is a Christian business. If it's business that is focused on God, then it will bless everything it touches.
Yeah, cool. That's a good answer. Fantastic. There are people that also think that to be able to start a business, it's sort of something you're either born with or you inherit. It's either in your bones or not. To what extent do you think that's true? Like, can someone actually learn to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, this is a common question, and I come at it both as a practitioner and also an academic. So I do know the evidence on the evidence of this question, and there are things that can help. There definitely are things that can help you be more entrepreneurial. If you add up all of the things you've probably heard, if your parents were entrepreneurial, you're more risk inclined, you've got access to good networks, all of these things help. But it's like saying, to play basketball, you've got to be that tall. That's not true at all. Like, to play basketball, you do need to be like 6'5" or whatever it is. I can't play basketball. I'll never play professional basketball. It's just never going to happen. It's not like that at all with entrepreneurship. The best evidence we've got is that might give you a slight head start. Like, we're talking a very, very, very small percentage here of it probably gives you a little bit of a leg up. Apart from that, there is nothing that really divides the entrepreneurs from the non-entrepreneurs. And this is actually the thing that drives entrepreneurship academics insane, because they keep searching. What does it actually mean? What is an entrepreneur? How do we actually figure out who they are? And every time someone tries to do a rigorous study on this, the result is exactly the same. It's too diverse. There's nothing that unites these people, because everyone could be an entrepreneur in their own way. And so all the good research that's been done in this space shows nothing. And there's been tons of good research. You can imagine how often people want to find the answer to this question. Everything keeps coming back to, nah, doesn't work. It's too diverse. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's it. Like, that's it. You've got it. And role models help. Training can help, but you don't actually need any of it. You don't need anything. You can just go and do it. It'll be harder. Like, my job is to help you avoid the common mistakes. Like, I'm going to smooth the path a little bit. That's all I can really aim for. But you will do it if you want to. And if God has made you to do that and you don't meet this characteristics, who cares? You can definitely do it. if he wants you to do it, then, you know, anyone standing in your way is a fool.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, if you want it badly enough, and even more importantly, if God wants it for you, right, then that's it. Wow. Okay, look, I was actually going to save the audience questions for later, but I've got a great one coming in Q&A. So I just want to encourage people to submit their questions. The first question is, what is the best way to get an idea if you don't have one?
Oh, love this question. Again, this is one of the questions that I've worked with the most. So fundamentally, good ideas come from problems. Bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. So if you really want to have a great idea, look around and see if you can find anything wrong with the world. Anything wrong. Might be hard. Oh, wait, no, it's super crazy easy. You could throw a stone at anything and there's a massive problem with it, right? Like the world is just full of problems. That's become very, very, very obvious, and it's getting increasingly so. But all of that is opportunity. All of that, once you've got the eyes of an entrepreneur, you will just see it all as opportunity. And then your problem will be not starting a business every 4 months because you found another thing that's exciting and you chase down that. That's my problem. And I hope that I can make it your problem too. It's a great world. It's full of opportunity. So really, how do you know that that opportunity is for you opposed to someone else? Now that's the real kicker, because if you're pursuing an opportunity that's meant for someone else, you're not going to succeed. So how do you know that that opportunity is for you? That's really the question. The world's full of opportunity. That's not the hard part. The hard part is figuring out what is your opportunity. And then it comes down to, what are your capabilities? What's God gifted you with? What are you willing to learn? What's exciting? What's interesting to you? And how can you combine those things to serve people? That is the crux of personal focus, which is actually a topic that we're going to cover in the bootcamp. So I'm going to go deeper into that in the bootcamp, but fundamentally it starts with those three things: your personal focus, your capabilities, your willingness to learn, and how you can combine those to serve customers. Because fundamentally entrepreneurship is all about serving customers, serving people. That is fundamentally what Christians are all about, serving people. So there should be far more Christians doing entrepreneurship, because we want to solve problems. We want to help people. We want to love people. And that's what entrepreneurs do. At their heart, that is what they're doing. They're solving problems. And so how do you find a good idea? We have to understand who you are, what God built you for, and then you start speaking into it.
I love that, because that framing also then doesn't limit an entrepreneur. You know, I'm going to start this business that is, you know, from scratch. Like it could be something you're already doing, right, or working in, and, you know, related to the company or the industry or whatever that you're in. It's an interest. So
100%. And I think one of the great examples, I'm talking to some missionaries at the moment who are in Southeast Asia, and they've been, their heart is for these people. And then they came to me and they said, we want to start a business in this area so that, you know, we can create jobs, but we don't want it to be a distraction. So we're missionaries. So we just want to share the gospel, but at the same time, like, it'd be nice to have like a little side thing. And my challenge to them and all missionaries is, why don't you make a business so good that they can't ignore you? Because at the moment, if you're a missionary, everyone wants to ignore you. But you know who they're not ignoring? Their employer.
Yeah.
If your employer says, hey, have you heard of Jesus? You can't walk away. Can you? You just can't. You need a job. Yeah. Especially in the developing world, they need jobs. So fundamentally, I said, okay, well, let's figure out what your competitive advantages are as missionaries in that missionary field, as individuals, but also in the community that you're in. So then we've categorized 8 of their competitive advantages as a couple in the area. And it utilizes not only their strengths and skills, but also the strengths and skills of the local area and the local people, because ultimately they want to serve those people. So they want to create jobs for those people. So how do we create a business that blesses everyone it comes into contact with? Well, what are they trained in? Well, can we train them in something? And this is the process we're working through. So that's a live case. I'm working with them right now, and we'll be working with them for the next couple of years. I intend to, and so it's really to think, how can we build not just a side project, because that doesn't bless anywhere near as much as if you're working diligently at everything you do. You should make an amazing business that blesses everyone and creates heaps of jobs and much prosperity for those people so that you can bless them. You will love them. That's the call. That's what a missionary should be doing, is loving the people. How do you love them if they don't have a job? Well, make a job for them and they'll be blown away. This is amazing. They don't even know me and they want to give me a job. This is fantastic. So that's what I think entrepreneurship, one aspect of entrepreneurship should be. Very excited by it, as you can tell.
Yeah. And certainly, like you said, how you do business also speaks to what you believe in, your policies, the decisions you make, the training you give, right? So all of that is part of mission work, especially today. Cool. You mentioned the bootcamp, Alex. So maybe let's get into that a little bit. We've got sort of the bootcamp. Like how does it work? It's coming up in January 17th to 21st. It's online, 10 to 12 every day. Is that all? Like, how much time do I need? Do I need to prepare anything?
Yeah. So the bootcamp is really a 1 week intensive where we're trying to help you figure out what your personal focus is. That's one of the big missions that we have for that week. And I'll go into how we do that, but it's a big focus. So we've got mentoring lined up. We're going to work with each person and try and help them figure out like what are they called to? And some people might know that already, and that's fantastic. And we'll just be inviting them to go deeper, because I know my purpose pretty clearly, but there's always room to grow. There's always time to get closer to the Father's will for your life, and we're going to work with you on that. We're also going to help you to stretch your networks and to understand, the importance of that support community. And we're going to introduce you to loads of people that will absolutely love to help you along the journey, from whatever that looks like. Whatever journey you're on, we want to walk with it. And the whole time we're going to be doing it online. And the reason is not because it's not going to be a Zoom. We're not just going to meet on Zoom all day, every day. That would kill me just as much as it would kill you, I'm sure. We're creating, I'm in the process of creating an entirely virtual campus, our own metaverse, which is it's going to be able to grow infinitely. And really that's the heart for this, right? Like, I'm not interested in just staying in the boundaries of Australia. This is a mission that takes over the whole world. The whole world needs to take entrepreneurship seriously, and Christians need to take entrepreneurship seriously. So from day one, we're launching global first, because the mission is that big. And so therefore everything needs to scale with that, but not scale in a online. We're doing that as absolute best practice we possibly can. I've practiced this for the last COVID period and I've honed it, and I can assure you it's not going to be a Zoom constantly. I can assure you it's going to be amazing. And I'm putting so much effort and detail to create this metaverse, to put all these surprises listed all throughout the whole thing. So it's going to be amazing. And I'm super excited to talking to all the mentors and explaining, all the things that you put in your application forms. They're all pumped. We just can't wait.
Wow, I can't wait. I'm going to be joining it as well. Well, I mentioned at the start of the webinar, there's sort of 3 different groups. There's high school students who, or people that are starting out, just starting out. There's people who are current business owners, they've already started something, and people who are sort of maybe mid-career, they feel like they need a change, or they feel their calling is to do something else other than what they're doing. Like, maybe summarize just broadly for those 3 groups, what they can get more value out of from the bootcamp.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all 3 groups I'm very comfortable with, and I've spoken to a lot of people in these groups. So, high school students or recent graduates, like what I imagine that you're feeling is anxiety, because the world that you have been born in is insane. Like, it's totally, completely bonkers, and it's changing and it's horrifying, and there's so much to freak out about. And I'm right there with you, freaking out with you. But really, there are 3 ways to make change. If anyone's feeling anxious or struggling that the world is not changing as fast as they would like, you can either criticize from the outside, you can throw stones at people, and you can just be really angry at everything. That does nothing. You can work your butt off to try and get a job inside the system and then try and advocate while inside the system. That has some impact, but man, you've got to put a lot of time to get those things, or you can build something better. That's what entrepreneurship is all about, building something better. If you see a problem, then solve it. Don't talk about it, solve it. If you don't know how, I'll help you. Any problem you can find, I have helped people try and solve that problem. And if we all work, we can dent these problems in a way that'll make change. And that is what I speak into your situation. Your anxiety is totally true. I'm right there with you. But the approach to that is to build something better, to change the world by showing a different way. And that's what we're going to do. In all of this course, we're going to be building better things. So if you want to build better things, come right this way and we'll help you. If you are an already experienced businessman, fantastic. Super happy to have you here. There is so much that I hope you will be able to give as well as gain from the broader community. I've got a network of hundreds of people who are waiting to help you in all sorts of ways. I'm basically a human API. I don't know very much. There's actually very little thing that I know, but mostly what I know is how to build a community and a network and connect others. So if you have a question, I can guarantee you I know someone who's got the answer, and it will almost certainly not be me. And I've been doing this for so long, I can confidently say any industry, any problem, anything at all, try me. I guarantee you I will find someone and I will know someone who can help you in that exact situation. And we can backfill if there's things that you didn't know. If you just didn't learn digital marketing, you don't know how to do social media, that's fine. We can teach you all of those skills. If you don't know how to raise money, that's fine. We'll teach you that. Anything you need to know, I've taught it. And I know someone who knows how to do it. So you'll be fine. And if you're thinking about taking your steps as a mid-career person, changing, moving from one place to another, going back to the personal focus, we will work with you to figure out exactly what you can speak into. What is the better thing that you could be building that with your skill sets, nobody else could be doing it, because you are created unique and your skill sets are important. And so it's about understanding how we can utilize your competitive advantages and speak into a market and an industry that needs help. It needs love. And there's every industry that needs that right now. And so I implore you to do that, with or without me. I'll be very glad to help, but I really, really mean it. I really want all of you to go start something and build something better.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. Alex, you mentioned the course. So is the bootcamp the course, or is there more? Like, after these 5 days, can people go and do startups, or what's the?
Yeah, I teach everything I know in 5 days. No, I wish. I'd be so good. But the bootcamp is dipping your toe in. So it is only a week, but there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff to cover. So I'm not going to try and boil the ocean in 5 days. It's very targeted about individual things and helping you where you are. First, identifying where you are on the journey, and then helping you whatever that might mean. So the bootcamp is the first unit of the diploma, and the diploma is the first year of the bachelor's program. And the bachelor is 3 years. So it's the first bit. And so if you want that, if you want to do it for credit, brilliant. Super glad, super excited. The diploma is built, so it gives you skills, all the skills that you need as an entrepreneur or as an early stage employee in a startup, which nobody else is training for. All other entrepreneurship programs are training you the theory of entrepreneurship, and they don't even do that well. I know because I've written them. The University of Sydney is launching a major in entrepreneurship. I've been very involved in that, and I know exactly what's in it, and I'm not going to teach you that. I'm going to teach you the skills that startup founders are actually asking me for, because I get approached every single day at the moment with, do you know anyone who has this skill set? And I have to keep saying, I've got thousands. I've had thousands of students. Can't recommend any of them because we don't teach them those skills. So this entire diploma, this entire bachelor's degree is built to give you the skills that the market is actually wanting. So even if you don't want to found a business, but you're willing and wanting to work in a team that's passionate about solving problems and loving customers, then absolutely fantastic. We will give you those skills that you need. It's just the first taste tester, but everything will be done online and fully scalable. And so you can do it as you need to. But really the big component here is you'll be working in or on a startup from day one. So day one, you're working in a startup that's already existing or on your own startup. If you want to launch something, I'm going to back you. And if you don't, I'm going to find you really interesting workplaces that are solving problems that you can get great experience in. And that continues for the entire program. So worst case scenario, let's say the whole degree is useless. You finish the first year with 1 year of work experience. Can't lose. You've got 1 year of work experience. Then you do the whole bachelor. You've got 3 years of work experience. Who cares what you learned in the degree? You've got 3 years of work experience. Which one's worth more? A bachelor's degree or 3 years of work experience? I can tell you it's 3 years of work experience. So we're going to give you both. Supportive community, all the content and all the education support you could need, and work experience.
Yeah, that's speaking of, we love our universities and our learning institutions, but you know, I did my bachelor's many years ago at the University of New South Wales, and I actually had to go part-time my last year to find my own work experience, because I felt like if I graduate in 6 months or a year, how am I going to actually be ready for work? So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and really valuable. Certainly, I'd encourage my kids to do that as well. If you could take them very young, Alex.
Working on it.
But it is a good point about experience as well. I wanted to bring up, you know, our diploma is 1 year, but you know, I've got questions from some people. Someone from high school is saying, I'm studying business studies, you know, in year 11, 12, starting next year. A big component is entrepreneurship, so I want to get a bit ahead. Can they actually do this while they're in high school?
They can 100% do the bootcamp while they're in high school, and we're actually creating pathways so they can do the diploma in high school. So yes, they can be doing that, and I know the high school curriculum relatively well around this space, because I help a bunch of schools with getting more entrepreneurship into the classroom. And so a lot of the stuff that you're learning there is really good foundation stuff, really important. And the stuff that we talk about is putting that into practice. Yeah. That's the big component. Like our content is slightly different. It's slightly more advanced, but you will be in a very good situation if you've done that. And if you're interested in putting it into more practice, then 100% get involved with the bootcamp and the diploma. Yeah, awesome. Learn by doing. At this point, maybe I'll bring in one of our students and graduates. Ethan, are you there? Hey.
Hey.
Good to see you, Ethan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So for everyone, Ethan did a Bachelor of Business and a Bachelor of Theology at Alphacrucis in Sydney and Brisbane. You're originally from Canada, right, Ethan?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just north of Calgary. Yeah.
Nice. And you're living in Brisbane now, enjoying the sun.
Yeah, I live in the Sunshine Coast, go back and forth between there and Brisbane quite often. So, yeah, it's good.
You're currently running your own videography business, right? You started that sort of just recently, last couple of years?
Yeah, it was kind of a side hustle for me until the pandemic really threw some things into the works, and I lost all my hours at my day job. So I had to either go back to Canada, which I did not want to do, or I had to go all in on my freelance business. So I went full in while I was still studying at Alphacrucis. And yeah, so everything from videography to photography, some web design and graphic design as well. So yeah, I just threw everything into that and started using the skills I was learning in real time And yeah, still doing that full time right now. So enjoying.
Okay. How was the experience for you at AC? Was there anything that stood out or that was really helpful in your business?
Sure. There are many things I could touch on. I think the first thing I would say was from the first day I was there, I really got a sense that I was important. And not in the sense that not ego or anything, but I had a sense that I was important to the staff. I was important to the college. I walked into the campus and the director of the campus walked up to me and already knew who I was and called me by my name. And it was really cool to just feel welcomed in right away like that. It really set a scene for me where I could continue my studies that I'd transferred from Sydney and just continue on. The second thing I would say was that the teaching was relevant. Sure, there's a lot of theory that we went through in the classes, and that was really good. But we spent so much time in discussion amongst ourselves about real world situations. We were also given impactful assignments, and even the writing assignments really actually pushed the boundaries of my understanding. I would say one of the things I chose to do when writing my assessments was, when given the opportunity to choose between a bunch of different topics, I'd pick the one I knew the least about, simply so that I could learn the most. And so that was really rewarding. And finally, I think one of the main highlights was in the last term of my studies. I got to do the creativity and entrepreneurship course with Dwayne Van Vuren at the Brisbane campus. And that was incredible. It transformed my thinking about myself as a person. And I think a lot of what Alex has been saying, I learned a lot of that while I was in college about how an entrepreneur thinks differently about the world, how we see problems, and we have this strong desire and a strong impetus to then fix it and to effect change in the world rather than to sit by and just let it continue. I think on some level, I walk around irritated a lot more now because I'm like, everything sucks. We need to fix it all. But at the same time, I see opportunity everywhere. I see opportunity around every corner. I see so many things. I'm like, A, this could be super profitable. B, this could help so many people. And I think that's a really cool way to live. So I think on top of everything Alex has said, which is awesome and has me excited, but on top of all of that, you'll actually learn to see a new level of optimism in the world when you start to think like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, cool. Can you tell us a bit about your business? How's it going? How did you go through the last 2 years, COVID and...
Sure. Yeah. Surprisingly well. The business has outperformed my expectations. I was very pleased with the first full year of going full time. I think I was expecting it to really kind of slowly ramp up, but by the time I finished my first year in business, I'd actually earned just about as much as the average Australian person does in a year working full time for an employer, which I was thrilled about. Certainly, there's other things to think about, like putting your own super aside, putting your own tax aside. You really are running your own business. So there's definitely a lot more things to be thinking about for yourself that doesn't get done for you. But that liberating feeling of being in charge of my schedule, in charge of my time, I get to decide how much my time is worth. That's a thrill. It's really hard to go back to the old way of living after doing that. So it's been really encouraging. And everything I've taken out of college, I use every time I speak to a client. It helps me go in feeling so confident and at ease, knowing that I've got the technical background and the theory under my belt, and also that I've got the support of the Alphacrucis community, who I still keep in touch with now. If I have questions about business, I can send Dwayne a text message or an email and pick his brain even after graduating, which is a great ongoing relationship for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're joining our Startup Bootcamp, is that right?
Yes, definitely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah, because I know you got a couple of other ideas up your sleeve, which you want to share in this. Do you want to share in this webinar, or you want to save it for the bootcamp?
I'll save it for the bootcamp, I reckon. The issue for me right now is which idea to work on. I think maybe, Alex, that'd be a good question for us to tackle in the bootcamp as well, as how do you select from a pool of good ideas after narrowing down all the maybe not so good ideas?
Yeah, good stuff.
How do you narrow it down? That's what I'll be working on over the next couple of weeks while getting ready for the bootcamp. But yeah, I'll have something to work on for sure.
Okay. Before I go to sort of audience questions, do you have anything for Alex you want to ask?
Oh man, I thought about this all day. This is great. Yeah, I do have something to ask Alex. Totally. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a bit better, Alex. But one thing that I have encountered in my own ideas and in thinking about things is that I have an idea. I think it's got a lot of merit. I've done the research. I've looked at the market and I'm like, there's definitely a market for this idea, but I have almost all the technical skills except for this one crucial skill that I need. And it's not economical to learn that skill. I need somebody else. So I guess the question would be, how do I go about finding quality partnerships for starting up a business, selling the vision and finding someone I can trust to actually go the distance? That would be my question. How do I find somebody like that?
Such a great question. I love it. And it's often, I mean, it is a common question that I get. And really it comes back down to that supportive network and community that you're part of. So that's actually one of the things that I focus most of my time on is building that community and connecting people. So if you said, I need this skill set, then there would be many people that are probably working on their own startups. But the thing about, people that are entrepreneurs and looking to build something, they're generally very, very helpful because they need all the help they can get. And so they're actually very inclined to help others. And so that kind of ethos of founders helping founders is really powerful. So even if you don't have the skill set, I can definitely connect you with advisors and people that are working with that skill set. So they might be able to help directly if it's a short-term engagement. Or it's about finding someone who knows how to vet the work quality, because a lot of the time you can't even hire for skills that you don't have yourself. It's very difficult to know whether someone's doing actually good work, or if they're just looking like it's good work, but actually it turns out to be really bad. It's very difficult. So again, it comes back down to that supportive community and network that you can draw upon and that you trust. And you go, well, I don't know them, but they come highly acclaimed, and I trust them by reference. And so that's how we overcome all of those issues usually.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting some new people through the boot camp coming up in January, and hoping to also be able to bring some skills to the table as well for those who might be able to glean from my background as well. So really looking forward to it.
100%. I'm thrilled that you'll be there. There's much to learn from everyone coming, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's just really a key element. Another key element as well is the networking part of it, because I know a lot of entrepreneur organizations to support networks around the world, but we're starting our own really, already have some, and we're just building upon it. And it's there'll be people in Australia, but there'll also be networks around the world, right? In our part of the world, Asia Pacific, but all the way in North America, Canada. Ethan, bring it on.
Yeah, that's right. Some homeboys.
Yeah. Look, there's so many questions that people have submitted. I've got another one just live from someone attending at the moment. So I'll go to that first. The question is, I start things, get them to the point where they need to be managed, and then I want out because I'm bored and probably on my next project. Am I an entrepreneur? And when I hand them over, usually the project hires 3 or more people to replace me, but the project sometimes falls over even though I train the people. I didn't leave too early. People just didn't have my drive. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and something that I've had plenty of experience with. And so yes, if you like getting something off the ground, then that is a good indicator that you are an entrepreneur. There are 2 types of entrepreneurs though, from all of my experience. There's the 0 to 1 entrepreneurs, which sounds like you, and I'm one as well. We like getting things off the ground. Once it becomes a little bit more known, we kind of know how to do it. It becomes very boring. You're not alone in that at all. There's loads of us. I can introduce you to tons. It's fine. But then there's also the 1 to 10. So these aren't business as usual people. These are very, very, very important people because of this exact problem. These are the people that don't necessarily want to go through that difficult grind of like actually getting something off the ground, but they like the excitement of something new. They like innovating and they like trying to figure out how to do things. And so often it's about finding that next person to pass it on to before the business as usual people take over. Because once you pass it on to business as usual people, you need to have very clear understandings of what exactly is this role, how do you do this role, and where are the KPIs and what are the constraints and all of those components, which we just don't figure out for quite a long time. It's quite difficult to figure out that stuff to that detail. So they don't like that. They like to know what exactly I need to do in order to achieve the function in this business. And so you need someone to help you to take it to the next step. And so I suspect you're not doing anything wrong, but it's difficult to find the 1 to 10 entrepreneurs. So you're probably hiring business as usual people, or the 10 to 100 people, and thinking that they can do the 1 to 10 component. So again, comes back down to network, finding the person who wants to take it to the next step, and how do you incentivize them and pass that on to a safe set of hands. Again, something that we can definitely tackle.
Yeah, that's good. I'm just going to go through, because of time, just 2 more questions. But I think that everyone hopefully has gotten value out of today, and we'll cover the questions in the bootcamp itself. I'll pick one from a high schooler. I want to learn more about leadership, as well as entrepreneurship. How will this bootcamp help me?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, leadership is an essential component, because fundamentally, if you're getting something up off the ground, then you are a leader of one. Like you might not have anyone following you yet, but the whole idea is you will. So it's a really good time to actually strengthen your leadership capabilities, because you don't have the responsibility of everyone looking to you for leadership. But you will soon. And so this is a great time to start testing yourself and start putting yourself in those situations where, the furnace can actually test your steel, and you can grow as a leader. And the bootcamp is designed in a way to push your boundaries in safe constraints. So we don't want to push you so far that you fall off a cliff, but we want to get you far close enough to the cliff to realize that there was a cliff there. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about this dance between, pushing you so you can grow, but keeping you safe so that you're comfortable and going well and learning. That's part of the educational challenge. But certainly leadership is one of the things that we need to be focusing on as entrepreneurs, and certainly the bootcamp will be inviting you to test those things and put them into practice.
Yeah, good. I should also add that in addition to the Diploma of Entrepreneurship, which is, if people decide to go on bootcamp, that's a 1-year course. We also have double diplomas. So we just launched 7 double diplomas, where you can do all sorts of combinations: ministry and entrepreneurship, chaplaincy, entrepreneurship. There's one called Diploma of Leadership and Entrepreneurship. So you probably go deeper into biblical, views of leadership, how to lead yourself and others, and combine that with what we have as well. So that'll be an interesting combination. Last question. There's so many, so I'm just looking through trying to find one that's interesting. We've got a couple of people that are already running on enterprises, and some are really interesting. Combining ministry and educating people, social entrepreneurship, tourism, solving youth unemployment, publishing, or hospitality. So there's so many to get to, but I guess for them, there's a general question of, they'd like to meet like-minded individuals, and be inspired by people who are like themselves, and also pick up a few skills. So Alex, is maybe close with that. Are there going to be, how many entrepreneurs or advisors or mentors are there going to be? Like, what's the dynamic going to be?
Yeah. I mean, I had 30 seconds of courage a couple of years ago, and I put cross equals heart on my LinkedIn, my Twitter, and my WhatsApp. And I thought the world was going to end. I thought everyone was going to hate me, and I was probably going to get stoned in the street. Turns out didn't happen. It was a great idea. But the most common question I get is other Christians who see that, and then they go, "Oh, you're a Christian in the startup space. Are there any others? Do you know any others?" I'd love to be able to talk to other Christians who are also starting businesses and starting, you know, tech startups. It's such a scene, and they don't know anyone. And over the years, I've had so many people come to ask me this question that I launched a community that I'll invite you all to join as part of the bootcamp, where there's all these Christian entrepreneurs hanging out, supporting each other, and it's just amazing. Like it's just absolutely such a blessing. And I launched it like 2 weeks ago, and there's already over 40 people in there, and they're just more and more and more coming. And so, you know, there's such a demand and such a need to connect. And so I hear you, I feel you, and we've got it. Like we've done it, we meet, and it's amazing. And so with the bootcamp, you know, we've got loads of mentors, dozens of mentors, and we've got close to 100 people signing up. So you've got 100 peers, which I'm sure a lot of them could be quite good mentors even. And so you've got 100 people signing up. We've got dozens of mentors. You know, there's a lot of people in this space actually. And so we're really excited to bring all of that together. And we've put in optional networking time into the program, so that if you want to go deeper and if you really want to meet as many people as you can, that's great. We're going to facilitate that and help you to broaden your network and get the support that you need. Whatever that looks like, we will help you.
Wow. I've already taken away so much, but like, you know, when you said that Alex cross equals heart, that, you know, I think I should start putting that on my LinkedIn profile as well. But, you know, also in my mind, I'm like, maybe we should design a special logo or seal so everyone in part of this community, you know, puts it on. That would be awesome. All right, thank you so much for joining us, Ethan and Alex and everyone on the webinar. It's 8 o'clock, so you know we've got to wrap up. But for those of you that submitted all your requests or your comments or your questions for the bootcamp, we have them. Alex has seen them. I've seen them. We're going to look through them and we'll address them in the bootcamp. Between now and January 17th, which is when the bootcamp starts, we'll send out the instructions on how to join in this new meta space, this metaverse that Alex has created. So we look forward to hearing from you then. If you have further questions between now and January, please feel free to email us, futurestudents@ac.edu.au. You can also reach out to myself, michael.lu@ac.edu, or alex.carpenter@ac.edu.au. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Have a good night. See you in